To some it's man, to some it's decorator, and still to some it is worshipper. Whichever one it is to you, thanks for joining me.
Welcome aboard. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are still here, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me once again. My name is Kwanele Nomonde Mncube. And in case you were wondering why I say both my names, well, it is because I used to really dislike my first name. Growing up, not anymore. I absolutely love both my names. So growing up, I used to really dislike my name because I was teased and I didn't really understand it. And then it became a thing to say both my names because I really liked my second name, but my second name's not my first name. So yeah, that's just, thought I should throw that out there. And I have a notebook with me. The only reason why I have a notebook with me is because I want to remember everything that I want to say. So one thing about teachers is that we forget a lot because there are 1,000 things going on in your head every day. You just lose track most of the time. So I do not want to forget anything. That is why I have a notebook with me. So today I want to speak about the topic of expectations in relation with God's calling upon your life. And I want to speak about this today because it is really something that has almost crippled me in my journey with God. And it would have crippled me if I didn't surrender in time. And I thank God that I was able to surrender. Although He kind of forced me to get me to the point of surrender, I appreciate it. Okay, so I'll speak briefly about the journey that I've had with God, specifically with the calling of teaching. So when I started my teaching career, I had expectations about it. I had expectations about how it would look, what my classroom energy would be, the kind of teacher that I would be, the learners, the environment, and all of those things. I even had ideals about the area in which I would teach. Gosh, I had so many expectations, and so what happened then is that when I started teaching, none of those expectations were met. And I'm not even lying. It was almost as though it was like a bombshell was dropped on me because none of those expectations were met. And obviously, that then really, it crippled me for some time. It really did cripple me because I expected certain things to fall into place and they did not fall into place. And when the moment that happened, I started feeling that God was being unfavorable. In fact, I remember this one time where I was walking to work and I was shouting at God in my head. I'm like, no ways, King. You are the one who told me to go after this profession and now I'm here. How come all of these things are happening to me? Like I was proper on a fight, like that day, and it was when I calmed down that God really spoke to me about this thing. And so the first point that I want to make in relation to expectations is that expectations can really cripple you, okay? They can rob you of the experience that God is trying to put you through in your life. Expectations really hinder you from seeing things the way that God sees them. If there's one thing that I've learned about God is that He is very intentional about preparation and refinement. And so I did not realize that. I thought that the moment that I become a teacher, things would be easy. Everything would flow the way that I had imagined it in my head. And it didn't happen that way. And the reason why it didn't happen that way is because there were certain things in me that God still needed to refine, and obviously refinement is always painful, but on top of that, it wasn't just the painful experience, it was the fact that this experience is nothing at all what I had imagined, and so for a long time, I could not understand that that season of my life was about refinement. And where does refinement come in? Obviously, I've gone through things in my life, and the things that we go through in our lives, they shape us, they mold us. And so I was unaware that I was about to take all of this baggage that I'd carried all through my life into this calling that God has given me. And of course, because God is a very intentional God, He had to get me to a place where He refines, where He cuts off each and everything in me that was not serving the purpose that He has called me to, and I just want to say this to everyone who feels that they are stuck, that they are perhaps not where they would have loved to be. People who feel that God has called them, but where they are does not really look like what God called you to. I want to tell you that you need to surrender. You need to look deep within yourself and really find out if everything that you had hoped for, that you had imagined, was things that God wanted for you in your calling. Did God ever say that you would get those specific things that you are perhaps wanting at the moment? Or did you think that the calling would come with all of those things because of what you've seen around you perhaps, or certain ideals that you might have had? God is not being unfavorable. What God is doing is shaping you, refining you to be the best version of yourself, to be the kind of person who is ready for the calling that He has placed upon your life. And the moment that I started understanding this was the moment that my life became better. I learned to become content. I learned to stop fighting with God. I learned to let go of all of my ideals. I learned that everything that I am going through right now is because God has a plan and purpose with it all, or about it all, because He was the one who gave the vision. Okay, so if He's the one that gives the vision, then He is the one who directs. And the second thing that I want to say is passion. So here's another thing. I am obviously very passionate about education. I am passionate about young people. And I in my heart of hearts, I really believed that passion would be enough for my calling. And as I started out in this journey, as I was going through the journey rather, I realized that in fact, passion is not enough. And here's why. Passion is merely a fire. It's like an excitement, and excitement really does die off. Like fires burn out, and if you are dependent on the passion you have for survival where God has called you, you will burn out. So what I have learned is that passion is just the start, okay? And what really takes you through or carries you through the journey is discipline and commitment. And oftentimes we are not disciplined and committed, but because we have passion, we think that we have mastered those traits. And as you move forward in your calling, you realize that sometimes you even get to a place where you feel perhaps this is not for me. I think God called me to the wrong place and all of that. Yet at the beginning, you were very excited about it. But now that you are getting to a place where there are challenges that you never expected, now you think that perhaps this is not where I should be. It is where you should be. The only thing that you need to learn is to be committed and to be disciplined. Those are the things that carry us through in our journey. And another thing that I learned about God is that he's very intentional about discipline and commitment. And so realizing this in my life was honestly such a great breakthrough, because had I not realized, or had I not come to the understanding of all of these things, I would have lived my life crippled, internally, that is. And I really just want to thank God that he is so committed, that God is so intentional, that he thoroughly prepares, that he thoroughly refines. And one thing that I really love about how God has worked with me in my life is that I have found that he usually prepares me for the next season in this current season. What I mean is, I always find that everything that I endure now in the current will usually help me in the next season. And I have seen this in my life, which is another thing that has really enabled me to just surrender and to give in. It's because I have understood that nothing that I go through is in vain, because God is the director and the leader of my life. So each and everything that I go through, it is because it will serve a purpose in the next season. And so I want to plead with you. I want to plead with you and say to you that if you are going through things that you never fathomed, if you are going through things that you did not think you would go through where God called you to be, it is okay. He knows what he is doing. All you need to do is to surrender and yield. Spend time with the King and inquire about each and everything that is going on in your life at the moment where you are. Ask him about it. He loves that. Ask him why everything that is happening to you is happening to you. He will surely answer, because he is that kind of God. You just need to be patient, and you need to listen closely when he speaks. And such moments really do teach us to trust him. I can confidently say that it is through the difficult moments in my life that I have learned that actually God is very favorable to me. And he is favorable because he leads me through the fire, and every time I am refined, it is because he knows that that particular trait he is refining is going to be a great help or a great tool for me in the following season. Yeah, this God that we serve, he is good and he is lovely, and I pray in my heart of hearts that we will be able to see things the way that God sees them. I pray that we will be able to let go of our expectations and yield to the will of God. I pray that we will come to the place where our desires and ideals are in alignment with the desires of God. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me once again. If you have not already done this, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on that notification bell so that you can be up to date with everything that I release, and I will see you in the next installment.